Welcome, welcome, everybody. Welcome to another Community Fit, and it is Friday, which means it is our adjusting to change toolkit time. Here we are. I'm James. I'll be your host for today. I want to start off with if you can give me like a thumbs up emoji or something, if this is your first Friday class with us. Let me know, do we have any newcomers? Just so I know how to frame today's material. Oh, wait, we have any newcomers? We do. Okay. Welcome, welcome. Okay, so welcome. I'm going to try to make this session make sense to you. What we've done on this series is a little bit different than what we've done in the past. In the past, we've really just kind of concentrated on like um, extended periods of time in classes that are sort of separate from each other. This one is a course. And so if you're just joining us, there's going to be lots of value here for you. But I'm going to do a little caveat at the beginning on how to maybe take the most out of today. So in particular, if this is your first one of these classes, maybe just paying attention to the beginning, some of the nervous system regulation things, and then kind of just listening for context. Why? Because we've already gone through mindfulness. We've gone through some of the toolkit or somatic exercises. We've gone through rest. We've gone through social connection. And hopefully, people who've been joining us from the beginning of this series have been practicing these things because you've now had an opportunity to practice for a month on mindfulness, nervous system regulation, how to find connection, how to find rest. And it's all of those little bits and pieces that go into today. And today's session is about capacity building, or maybe more commonly known as resilience. How do we become more resilient human beings, especially navigating and going through change? And what does it take to get there? Well, it takes some mindfulness. It takes some of that nervous system toolkit stuff. It takes being rested. And it also takes social connection and support. So we've kind of given you the building blocks for what is needed today. And the more, it's like exercise, right? The more reps and practice you put into those things, the better you get at resilience, fortitude, or what we would in somatic therapy called capacity building. And so it's not that you're not going to get something out of today, but if you're like, oh, I've just kind of attended the classes and I haven't been practicing, the more you practice these, or, oh, this is my first experience, the more you practice these things, the more access you have to resilience, fortitude, and capacity building, which is going to be really important for where we end next week. Remember, 6-week series ending next week, going into growth mindset and some of these brain games. Like, how do we, after we've regulated the nervous system, built up capacity, now what do we fill that bucket with? Like, now that we've created the space, how do we fill it with the good stuff? And so we're gonna cover that next week. So again, if you're brand new to this, just take what makes sense, and I'll kind of asterisk that as we go through. And if you've been with us for a while, I hope you've been practicing because today's session will make even more sense. So here's how we're going to start. We're going to start with a little bit of like, what is mindfulness? Because reminders are always good for some of you, brand new material. Then we're going to go into some of the nervous system toolkit stuff, and then we're going to make it make sense for resilience and capacity building, because that's the point of all of this. What we hope to get to with any sort of nervous system work, because remember, the toolkit is really practices for building mindfulness, and they serve as triage for a disrupted nervous system. But all of that stuff done over time trains the nervous system, and in turn, your mind, to be more plastic, to be more resilient, to be more spacious, to be able to handle the ups and the downs. Because that's really the point of all of this, is not to have to constantly and continuously triage yourself, right? Uh-oh, I'm triggered again, triage. It's to not be triggered as much. It's to have more stuff roll off of your back, right? It's to be able to not just withstand and take and effort and shoulder through more. It's not about dealing with it. It's about the fact that it just doesn't even bother you. in the same way. Your nervous system is calibrated differently the more you do this sort of work. So, wanted to kind of create the container there for that as we go into today. So, again, what is mindfulness? Well, mindfulness as we know it is the awareness of context and variability. What is going on inside of me? What is going on in the world around me? The people, the literal environment, the lights overhead, the sounds, the temperature of the space. What's going on with other people? Who am I with? How are they affecting me? It's the context. And as those contexts shift day to night, work from home life, husband to best friend to child to mother to whatever it is, how are all of those different people affecting me? And can I spot and notice how my experience shifts and changes over time? Variability. And how do we practice that? Nervous system toolkit. So, as we spend a few moments regulating our nervous system, getting prepared for today, because we're going to use some of these toolkit practices in the capacity building, here's what I want you to notice. How do we notice inside, right? How do I notice my body? Well, I can notice it from tension. So, notice right now, does my body feel tense or does it feel more or less relaxed? And you might notice that globally, the whole body. You might notice it where you tend to store tension and stress. Maybe it's your neck and shoulders. Maybe it's your belly. Maybe it's your hips. Maybe it's somewhere else. You might also notice it through your heart, meaning, is my heart beating fast? Am I not aware of my heartbeat? Or is my heart beating kind of slow and rhythmic and comfortable? And am I aware of that? Do I even have access to it? Or you might notice it through your breath and just kind of noticing, does my breath feel even? Am I breathing? Do I have access to a relaxed breath? Or does it feel short, tight, somewhere in between? Just noticing. Then let's go into some of the toolkit and notice how it changes the tension, the heart, the shoulder stuff, the hip stuff, the breathing stuff. And if you have a favorite toolkit practice, go ahead and do that. I'm just going to take us through a couple of them, right? First one I'm going to do is a breath work, bucket number 1. And that's going to be the physiological sigh. Double inhale, single long exhale. If you can go in through the nose, out through the mouth, all the better. It's an inhale, followed by a secondary full inhale, full capacity, long exaggerated exhale through the mouth. We're going to try 5 of them today. Ready? Inhale. 4 more. 3. 2 more. 1 more. And then just doing your check-in. How did that change the current experience you're having, right? Context number 1, intervention. Context number 2. Did something or anything shift? And if so, maybe keep practicing the breath work or do more of that. If not, we're going to move on. Maybe it's therapeutic touch that will work. So bringing your hands together, getting them warmed. Here, maybe the front of the throat, maybe here, maybe on the belly. Where would feel good to touch? Where does it feel good to bring that warm, soft, therapeutic touch? And just notice as you hold and sustain that, what happens with the nervous system? What happens with the muscles? Do they soften? What happens with the heart? Does it regulate? What happens with the breath? Does it settle? Could be an orientation. I can just begin to look around and notice the things in the space, just what's in the space. There might be pictures and photos and walls and ceilings and wood and plants. There might be a dog or a cat. I'm just noticing windows and doorways, just what's in the space. My nervous system likes to understand the context, the environment that I'm in. Might even settle on something that brings me joy, a photo, a plant, a dog, whatever it is. Just kind of notice as I intake that thing that brings me joy, how does that impact my nervous system? And then I can do a check-in. What am I noticing? How did the tension change? How did the breath change? The heart rate change? Again, practicing mindfulness. I'm just noticing change. I'm tracking change. From there, I can go into a movement and do a right and a left rock. I could do a shake. I could get up and walk around the space. I could jump. I can jiggle. I can skip around the room. We used to do that a lot in a class we used to do Move Lab. And there's actually a lot of research on skipping, like you would imagine a child skips around. It is one of the healthiest movement patterns you can do, both for your body and in particular for your nervous system. It really brings a lot of thumbs up feelings into the nervous system. And I could even do a vocalization. I can do a hum, I can do a sigh, just some sort of noise that I'm making. Mm, whatever it is. It's like you're getting whatever it is off of your chest. Could be a laugh, it could be a scream. One of the healthiest things you can do if you're having a really bad day, especially if you work in an office, right? Having a really bad day at lunchtime, go into your car. And if you have to leave the parking lot, leave the parking lot, get in your car, put on your favorite music and sing to whatever that is. Or if it's a real bad day, get in your car and scream, like literally primally scream and get it out of your system. So, toolkit, we have a breath work, we have a therapeutic touch, we have orientation or sensory foraging, we have movement. It could be small, it could be big. You could go for a run. We have vocalizations, humming, sighing, singing, screaming, letting stuff off of your chest, toolkit exercises, right? Now, all of that is going to be important as we transition here into capacity building, building resilience. We're going to look at it from a number of different ways. Why? Because the whole point of what we're doing is making us is like dilating open our energy fields, our nervous system, our experience, our tolerance levels, however it is you want to think about it or language it. We're talking about the same thing, right? From woo woo, like I'm opening up my chakras and my heart channels and energy and whatever, to my nervous system, my neuroplasticity, my tolerance levels, and every language possibility in between. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. So here's what this might look and sound like. In previous iterations of this class, we've gotten really particular in a mindfulness practice that we use a lot in somatic therapy called focusing. And focusing is being mindful of your interoception, right? Interoception is the way I notice my internal landscape. Where am I tense? Where am I not tense? What feels spacious? What feels lacking in space? What feels hot versus what feels cold? Remember, in focusing, especially if you've been with us for a while, it's about felt sense, not making sense. Making sense sounds really logical, right? What this might sound like. If I notice from a making sense perspective that my shoulder hurts, that there is a pain signal, that I don't like the way my shoulder feels, making sense would sound like, well, my shoulder feels this way because I slept on it, or my shoulder feels this way because I had an accident before, and this is where I always hold tension. My shoulder feels this way because my posture is bad. And if I set up more, the doctor told me that I would, right? Where there's a sentence and there's a beginning and an end, and it's causal. We don't do that here. Right? Making sense lives over here on a shelf. Instead, what we're interested in is a felt sense. And for some of you, that's going to be so difficult. It's so simple. And for a lot of us, it's been kind of trained out of the game. What does felt sense look and sound like? Well, if I'm to take that imaginary shoulder thing, my shoulder is in pain, my shoulder doesn't feel good, I don't like the way it feels. I would sit with it and go, well, what does it actually feel like? What is the experience that is happening? Some vocabulary might be it feels cold or cool, it feels metallic, or it feels like wood. It reminds me of the feeling of um, swimming and not being able to get a good stroke in. Or it might feel like that feeling I don't like when I lift weights. It might feel lacking space or overly spacious. It might feel like it doesn't belong to you, or it feels like what you would imagine your grandma's shoulder felt like when she would complain about it, right? Or it's not a cause. It's not this and this. And it's generally speaking a lot of words that don't actually go together. And what you're doing is creating a library of felt sense. And it doesn't have to make sense. We're putting that making sense over on the side. So here's the invitation. I want you to look inside of your own body right now and maybe just track in your own body somewhere that you are not feeling well right now, somewhere you would rather not feel that way. And if you're like, there's nowhere in my body that feels like that, James, then do the opposite. Somewhere that feels exceptionally good. Maybe it feels supported and warm. Maybe it feels spacious. Like, I don't know. And spend a few seconds just kind of going, got it. This is what that experience feels like. And this is how I would language the experience. This is what I notice in that experience. And we're going to give it 30 more seconds for you to just notice. Another 10 seconds, just noticing and languaging. Another 5 seconds. Now, you just chose either somewhere that felt really good or somewhere that didn't feel good, right? The really good area we'll think of as a blue, and the really bad area we'll think of as red. So some of you may have noticed red, and some of you may have noticed blue. Here's the invitation. Notice the opposite now. Now that you language this, notice the opposite. And everyone should be able to do that. Because now we're not noticing areas that feel good or bad. If your bad area felt lacking space, congested, hot, I don't like it. Whatever the language is, you got to look for somewhere else in the body that either feels like it has space, that you like the way it feels. Cool. The opposite of the language you just used there. It's why we language the things. Sometimes it's hard to just notice the buckets, but we can notice what we put in the bucket, the language, the experience, the thought process around it. So if you were noticing a red area, see if you can now notice a blue area. And if you're noticing a blue area, notice the red. Blue area, somewhere that felt really good. Red area, the opposite. Spend some time languaging the opposite. Another 10, 15 seconds, just noticing and languaging. Good. Now you have self-identified red and blue zones. You have self-languaged red and blue zones. I can't give you the language. I can't give you where those are in your body. You are having a unique experience. Something I can steward if we were working privately together and we were sharing conversation. But in a group, I can't do that. I don't know where those areas are for you. I don't know what a red and a blue thing feels like for you. But hopefully, you've now identified a red and you've identified a blue. Here's how we start to build capacity. I invite you to notice the blue area, the good area. And then, like a pendulum would swing, we're just going to swing over to the experience of the red area. and then we'll swing back to the blue area, right? Anecdotally, it would be like, like orientation practice, right? I notice there's a wall to my left, and then I change my mind and I notice the wall to the right. And I look back to the wall on the left, and then I look back to the wall on the right. And right now, this practice is called pendulation, just noticing what's the red area, what's the blue area. And we're doing it in a titrated fashion, meaning small increments. I'm going to notice my blue area, 3 seconds. And I'm going to notice my red area, 3 seconds. Blue area, red area. Now, for someone out there, you may be in such physical pain that it's really hard to notice a blue area, really hard to notice somewhere that feels good. Here's the alternative. Or if you ever find yourself in a place where you are just physically so uncomfortable or emotionally so uncomfortable that it's hard to find the blue area, the soft area, the good area, I notice the red area, the area that feels bad, and then I turn to whatever is outside of me, the thing that brings me joy, the glimmer area, the beautiful picture, the dog, the cat, the TV show, the look, the view outside, somewhere outside of me that I can find joy and blue in. And then I can look inside, red, blue, red, blue. So some of you might be on an internal journey right now. Red and blue areas, some of you might be in an internal external, looking inside at the thing that doesn't feel good and outside for the thing that feels good. And I'm doing, those are your two options, inside or inside outside. And I'm just noticing. And then some of you might have the ability to slow that noticing down, meaning it can be, instead of 3 seconds in blue zone, can be there for 10 seconds. And then I can be over in red for 10 seconds. Maybe for some of you, build up more resilience and I can sit with the discomfort for longer and find joy or happiness or a nervous system thumbs up experience for longer. And I'm here, and then it's like I'm slowing things down and I'm here. And some of you have probably been with us for long enough with like nervous system toolkit, community, and all of the other iterations. Maybe some of you are at the point where you don't even have to like make the pendulation happen. Your nervous system is already attuned to just naturally swinging and noticing. Now, if this is your first class, don't even bother unleashing the nervous system and the mind to swing and notice. If you've been with me for like 50 classes, hopefully you've been practicing. Hopefully your nervous system is already attuned to the swinging and the noticing. If you're somewhere in between, you might have to effort more. If you're brand new to this and you're like, I don't even know what to do the physiological sigh. Just notice how that's affecting your system. Do the therapeutic touch and notice how that is affecting your nervous system. You're just noticing right now. That's capacity and nervous system resilience 101. 101. And you can see why I have to be practicing my mindfulness, noticing context and variability. I have to have access to some sort of intervention tool, some sort of toolkit tool, a breath work, a whatever it is, because that's the thing that kind of attunes and makes me notice the context and variability, right? Also, some of this noticing might bring some stuff up for you. And if so, that's really good to like triage with the nervous system noticing stuff, right? It's really good to, oh, the noticing, the capacity building has actually made me feel more anxious. Well, do a breath for that. Walk away, go outside, go for a walk, learn to settle the nervous system and be aware that you have agency over your nervous system. There's agency. You have access to shifting your own nervous system. Capacity building is about, can I be in the uncomfortable for longer? Knowing that I have access to the comfortable when I need and want it. Because often when we're going through big changes, when we're going through stressful moments, when we're stuck in trauma, we forget or we don't know we have access to feeling good again. It feels like this thing is just going to keep happening. And we get kind of stuck there. But spending time noticing those things in the body is what develops resilience and capacity. Now, let's shift the lens on this just a bit. Because if you're in this class, likely you are preparing for a change, you are going through a big change, whether that's a personal or professional change. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, one being like changing the clothing you're wearing, right? There's not a lot of um, risk or reward for that. And 10 being like the biggest change you can imagine, right? It's like a pandemic shutdown change, right? Like the context of the world shifted. Scaling 1 to 10, think of a change at like a level 2 or 3, something that makes you uncomfortable enough, right? Maybe it's thinking about going into the next meeting, right? That's a change in the day. Maybe it's about having to have an uncomfortable conversation with someone. That's a change in relationship or change in communication. Maybe it's about um, an argument you had, something that's at like a 2 or 3 level. Close your eyes and really let yourself think about that. Take yourself there. Be with that. Here's the wonderful thing about the mind and the bad thing about the mind. It doesn't realize often what's real and what's perceived. It's processing it all in the same way. So thinking about the thing, now begin to notice, how is that affecting your body? Is it tense? Is it tight? Did it change your heart or your breath? And if it didn't, pick a different event. Pick a different change. Something that's going to get your nervous system mildly worked up. That change, that memory is now your red. Then pick your favorite nervous system toolkit practice. It might be a physiological sigh. It might be a breath work. It might be a touch, right? It might be a movement. It might be an orientation. That's your blue area. So here's what this might sound like. I'm going to think about the argument that I had, get worked up, then do a physiological sigh and notice how or if that regulates your system. A couple of those. Go back to the argument. Think about that. Now that I'm thinking about that, how's my body responding to it now? Do I get as worked up, more worked up, or less worked up? Go back, pendulate back, physiological sigh, touch, movement, whatever it is. Thinking again, red area. What's going on? What's that moment? Back to the toolkit. Or your second option, red area. Big change, big moment, argument, thing coming up, big move coming up, big job promotion coming up, travel coming up, person moving away coming up, whatever it is, the thing that's working you up. Then think of a good memory. Maybe it's the time you felt rested. Maybe it's the time you felt deeply connected to someone. Maybe you just have to think of your best friend's face, your dog, your cat, that favorite holiday. And then go back and think of the red thought again. Blue thought, red thought. Pendulating between the two, can you drag it out? Can you spend more time comfortably in the uncomfortableness? Because you're swinging back and drawing resource from either the breath work, the therapeutic touch, the orientation, the movement, or the thought of rest, the thought, the concept of being connected, the favorite memory, the piece of art, spending time. Capacity building, resilience, is about recognizing and having access to resource, rest, connection, somatic practices, movement, breath work, things that make you feel good, aliveness factors. that when we spend time there, we're sort of like nutrients. We're sucking it out a bit so that when we get over here to the red area, the hard stuff, the deplete area, we don't feel so sucked dry. We have more stuff to deal with it. We have more stuff. We're prepared. And over time, doing these practices, we build up resilience. We build up capacity. And the amazing thing is, it doesn't even take that long. For some people, it's hours. It's practicing. It's days, it's weeks, it's months. It's consistent practice so that your nervous system begins to understand we are resourced. With that, I'm going to sign off for today. I know Alicia's got an announcement to make. Join us next week when we wrap this whole thing up. Thank you so much. Hopefully you learned something new today, everyone. Alicia, it's all yours. And Alicia, if you are talking, we can't hear you. There you go.
I am here. As soon as I had to talk, my dog started barking, so I had to let him out of the room. So hi everyone. Sorry I haven't been with you guys for a little bit. Are there any questions for James today? No.
It's mostly about the dog, and he's asleep right over here, so I'm gonna go get him so everyone can have their Bob
every
moment.
once in a while. Anyhow, I just wanted to get on and say hello, happy Friday, and let you know that we're a couple of weeks to the end of this 6-week session. And then, hi, Bob, he's so cute. His hair's coming back.
It is.
I love it. And then we're going to have a couple of weeks off, and then we'll be restarting another 6-week session that's going to be similar. So for those of you who are new today, know that you're not that far behind, and that on November 6th, we'll be able to start up again on Wednesdays with our midweek desk stretch, and then on Fridays with our ACT class. But we're going to put a little bit of a spin on our ACT class and talk about how to use these the nervous system toolkit in relation to holiday stressors, all of those things that can kind of zap our joy during the holidays. So I'm really excited for what James will put together for us with that. Also, just if you guys have a few more minutes, anybody who's interested on staying on, I wanted to introduce a resource that's available to our Western Health Advantage members. But even if you're not a member, I am 99% positive that your health plan offers something similar. So if you would like to see what I'm going to show everybody, please go ahead and stay on. So now I'm forgetting how to share my screen. Let's see, I was just doing that. There we go. Let's see. I want to show you a resource called Choose Healthy. It's a vendor that Western Health Advantage uses to offer our members discounts on different health, wellness, fitness products and services. So a lot of different things that you can look at in here. And I will put the link for those Western Health Advantage members that are on. I'll put the link as soon as I'm done talking on where you can get to this. But some of the things that you can find on this resource, number one is their signature program, the Active and Fit Direct program that offers health club memberships, fitness center memberships for $28 a month. Some of the big names that you know, not California Family Fitness. I will just throw that out right now. Actually, it's now called In Shape Fitness. They are not a part of this program, but many others are. As well as some of the what they call the premium clubs that are out there, the boutique fitness studios like the Club Pilates or the F45s and things like that. So basically, it's a discount fitness wellness discount page where you can see that you can find all sorts of things from fitness equipment to, Fitbits and Garmin's, down to exercise bikes. And I really want to get this for Christmas. I'm going to ask for it, this Therabody Recovery pounder massager, because I need that for my hips. But 30% off, on that, just different products. The other thing they have, I think it was on the second page, for Western Health Advantage members is 25% off massage therapy. So if you go to this page, you would just go to the find a provider, you would click on that, put in your zip code, and it would show the independent massage therapists in the area who accept this coupon for 25% off. So that's a great resource to know about if you like to get massages. It's a great stress reliever. I know I like it. Also, I have been experimenting with these different like the home cooking meal kits. So they have some really good deals on some of those. You can see, $20 off, up to 75% off. Sunbasket is one of my favorite that I've done off and on throughout the years, actually. So they have the Sunbasket recipes here, different ready to eat type meal programs, a Vitamix for 15% off. Anyhow, I wanted to bring this up because the holidays are coming up. And if you're thinking about trying to save some money for the holidays and you want to get some good gifts to, your friends, your family that are healthy and will be motivating to help them on their wellness journey, this might be a good option for you. And let's see what this last page has. Just some other, you can see all of the different products that are available. So again, this is a free resource page for Western Health Advantage members. They go into, they log into Western Health Advantage portal, and then they have access to this. I am going to put the link to the landing page in there so that you can kind of get there through that. And then those of you who are not Western Health Advantage members, check your health plan because they probably have something similar. And if they don't, then you're just going to have to come over to Western Health Advantage. There's my plug.
These are really
So
great
I'm going to go ahead and
discounts.
stop the shares. Anybody have any questions about that? It's just one of those things. It's hard to get the information out to our members that we
Yeah.
have these great resources. So
It's also, I was looking at some of these discounts, Alicia, and, as a wellness professional, often you can get like ambassador discounts or different things. And I'm looking at some of these, and these are actually better than what are offered to a lot
yeah.
of people.
You're right. You're right. They are some pretty deep discounts on those,
Hmm.
on those different products, which, even like, I don't know if you saw the Skechers one, it was like
Yeah.
35% off Skechers shoes. I love
Yeah.
Skechers. Like I buy their shoes like 2 or 3 times a year. So if I can save
Yeah.
5%, then definitely. So I'm going to go ahead and type in the link. My word. I can't do it fast enough, right? Or fitness. And then if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. I'll put in my email as well. And with that, I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. Thank you, James. Thanks, Bob.
He's resumed his nap.
Yeah, good.
Hey,
All right, you guys.
everyone. I'll
Talk
see
to you
you.
soon.
Bye.